I was lying in my hospital bed at Toronto General, 3 days post-surgery, when the night nurse leaned close to my ear and whispered 6 words that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my family. "Don't take the pills your son brings." I blinked up at her, my mind still foggy from the anesthesia. "Sorry, what did you say?" But she was already moving away, her face carefully neutral as she adjusted my IV line. My son Marcus walked in at that exact moment, carrying a small paper bag from the pharmacy downstairs. The nurse glanced at it, then at me, and I saw something in her eyes. Fear? Warning? Before I could process it, she'd left the room. "Hey, Dad." Marcus set the bag on my bedside table. "How are you feeling?" "Like someone drove a truck over my hip," I said, trying to sound normal even though my heart had started pounding. "What's in the bag?" "Oh, just some supplements. The doctor mentioned you might need extra vitamin D during recovery. I picked some up for you." He smiled. That same smile I'd seen when he was 7 years old and brought me his first report card with straight A's. When he graduated from Western University with honors. When he married Jennifer 5 years ago. But now, all I could hear was the nurse's whisper. "My name is Robert Harrison. I'm 67 years old, and until last week, I thought I had a pretty good life. I'd worked as an engineer for 42 years, designed bridges across Ontario, retired comfortably. My wife Eleanor died 4 years ago from cancer, and it nearly broke me. But I had Marcus, my only child, my pride and joy. Or so I thought. The hip replacement surgery had been scheduled for months. Degenerative arthritis, the doctor said. Routine procedure. I'd be back on my feet in no time. Marcus and Jennifer had insisted I stay with them during recovery, rather than hiring a nurse. "You raised me alone after Mom died," Marcus had said. "It's the least we can do." I'd been touched. Grateful, even. Now, lying in that hospital bed, staring at the innocent-looking paper bag, I felt the first cold finger of doubt trace down my spine. "Thanks, son," I managed to say. "I'll take them later. Feeling a bit nauseous right now." "Sure, Dad, no problem." He sat down in the visitor's chair. "Jennifer's parking the car. She made that barley soup you like. We'll get you home tomorrow, and you can start recovering properly." Home, to their house, where I'd be completely dependent on them. The nurse's words echoed in my head. "Don't take the pills your son brings." After Marcus left to find Jennifer, I lay there staring at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in the acoustic panels. 42 years of engineering had taught me to analyze problems methodically, to look for patterns, to never ignore warning signs. I reached for the paper bag with my good hand, the one without the IV. Inside was a bottle of vitamin D supplements. The seal looked intact. Everything appeared normal. But something wasn't right. I'd worked with enough safety protocols to know that when someone with authority gives you a warning, you listen first and ask questions later. That nurse had risked her job to tell me something. Why? I pressed the call button. A different nurse arrived, younger, chirpy. "Yes, Mr. Harrison?" "The nurse who was just here. The one with the dark hair, about 50. What's her name?" "Oh, that's Patricia. Patricia Chen. She's our senior nurse on this floor. Been here 20 years. Is she still on shift?" "Until 11, yes." "Is everything okay?" "Fine," I lied. "I just wanted to thank her properly. She's been very attentive." After she left, I waited and thought. Patricia Chen, 20 years of experience. Senior nurse. Not someone who'd make baseless accusations or risk her career on paranoia, which meant she knew something. I must have dozed off, because when I opened my eyes, it was dark outside my window. The hospital had that peculiar quiet of after hours, just the distant beep of monitors and the soft squeak of shoes on linoleum. Patricia appeared in my doorway like a ghost. "Mr. Harrison." She glanced down the corridor, then stepped inside and closed the door most of the way. "I need to speak with you, and I don't have much time." "What's going on?" I struggled to sit up straighter. She moved to my bedside, her voice barely above a whisper. "Earlier today, I was in the supply room. It shares a wall with the family consultation room. I overheard your son and daughter-in-law talking." My mouth went dry. "I wasn't trying to eavesdrop," she continued quickly. But I heard your daughter-in-law say something about increasing the dosage, and your son responding that they had to be careful because the doctor was already asking questions. The room tilted slightly, or maybe that was just me. Then she said, "Once he's home, it'll be easier. No one watching. We can speed things up." "Speed what up?" My voice came out strangled. Patricia's eyes were filled with professional concern and personal fear. "Mr. Harrison, I've been a nurse for 2 decades. I've seen family members do terrible things for inheritance, for insurance money, for freedom from caregiving responsibilities. I don't know what they're planning, but those words, those exact words, I've heard variations of them before. You think they're trying to kill me?" I said it flat, emotionless, because if I put any feeling behind it, I'd shatter. "I think you need to be very, very careful. I checked your chart. You're on blood thinners post-surgery, blood pressure medication, pain management. Any one of those. If the dosage is wrong, if they're mixed with the wrong supplements or drugs." She trailed off. I thought about the vitamin D bottle. "Can you test those pills Marcus brought?" "Not without proper authorization, and that would alert them that someone's suspicious." She paused. "But I can tell you this. Vitamin D supplements shouldn't be started without checking your current levels first. Too much vitamin D can cause hypercalcemia, especially dangerous when you're on blood thinners. It can lead to kidney problems, heart arrhythmia, and in high doses combined with your other medications, it could kill me." I finished her sentence. She nodded. "Or at least cause serious complications that might look like post-surgical issues, natural causes." We stared at each other in the dim hospital light. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "You could lose your job." "Because I took an oath." Her voice was steady. "First, do no harm. That includes warning patients when I believe they're in danger, even if I can't prove it yet." "What should I do?" "Don't take anything they give you that isn't prescribed and monitored by your hospital doctor. When you're discharged, insist on having a private nurse at home, or better yet, go to a rehabilitation facility instead of their house. Buy yourself time to figure out what's really going on." After she left, I lay awake until dawn, my mind racing through 42 years of memories. Marcus at age 5, crying because he'd accidentally broken my favorite coffee mug. Marcus at 13, telling me he wanted to be an engineer like his dad. Marcus at 25, holding Eleanor's hand in the hospital as cancer ate her alive, tears streaming down his face. How does that person become someone who plots his father's death? Unless Jennifer was the driving force. I'd never quite warmed to her, if I'm honest. She was ambitious, calculating, worked in finance, always talking about investments, portfolios, maximizing returns. She'd been the one pushing for me to update my will last year, just to make sure everything's in order, Dad. And I had. Everything to Marcus. The house in Rosedale worth $2.3 million. The investment portfolio Eleanor and I had built. The life insurance. The pension. All of it. I'd made Marcus the executor. Given him power of attorney for healthcare decisions should I become incapacitated. I'd handed them the keys to my murder. The next morning, Dr. Kapoor made his rounds. "Mr. Harrison, you're looking well. I think we can discharge you this afternoon." "Actually, doctor, I've been thinking." I kept my voice casual. Given my age and the fact that I live alone, I'd feel more comfortable spending a week or two at a rehabilitation facility, just to make sure I'm steady on my feet before going home. His eyebrows rose. "Your son indicated you'd be staying with him and his wife." "Plans changed. I'd prefer professional care for the initial recovery." Marcus, who just walked in with coffee, stiffened. "Dad, we discussed this. You're coming home with us." "I've changed my mind." I met his eyes. "I want to go to a rehab facility." "That's ridiculous. We have the guest room all set up. Jennifer's taken time off work." "I'm not asking, Marcus. I'm telling you what I've decided for my own care." Something flickered across his face. Frustration? Anger? Fear? Dr. Kapoor cleared his throat. "Well, it's certainly the patient's choice. I'll have the discharge planner arrange a placement. Should have you transferred by this evening." After the doctor left, Marcus stood at the foot of my bed, arms crossed. "What's this really about, Dad?" "Just being cautious." I kept my tone mild. "At my age, you can't be too careful." He studied me for a long moment. Jennifer's going to be disappointed. She'll understand. But the way he said it, the way his jaw tightened, told me everything. Jennifer wouldn't just be disappointed. She'd be furious. Because whatever they'd planned required me to be in their house, under their control. The rehabilitation facility, Lakeshore Recovery Center, was clean, professional, and most importantly, staffed 24/7. My medication was managed by nurses who documented every single pill. My vitals were checked 3 times daily. I had physical therapy twice a day. And I had time to think. Marcus and Jennifer visited the first day, all smiles and concern. Jennifer brought flowers. "We just want you to be comfortable, Robert," she said, using my first name like she always did, never Dad. "Are you sure you wouldn't be happier with family?" "Quite sure," I said firmly. "But thank you for understanding." They didn't visit the second day. Or the third. On the 4th day, I got a call from my lawyer, David Brennan. "Robert, I just had an interesting conversation with your son. He was asking about your will, specifically about the provisions if you were to become mentally incapacitated." My blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That you have a power of attorney arrangement with him for health care, but any changes to the will require you to be of sound mind, witnessed and notarized." "And if someone claimed I wasn't of sound mind?" David paused. "Then there would need to be medical documentation, psychiatric evaluation. It's not easy to declare someone mentally incompetent, Robert. Why are you asking?" "Just curious." I kept my voice light. "Lots of time to think here in rehab." "Is everything all right?" "Fine. Just fine." But it wasn't fine. The pieces were clicking together like a blueprint. They'd planned to have me in their house, where they could control my medication, my diet, my environment. They could have claimed I was becoming confused, forgetful, doctor shopping, until they found someone who'd sign off on cognitive decline. Once they had me declared incompetent, Marcus could make any changes he wanted as my power of attorney. Or they could have simply killed me and made it look like post-surgical complications. The vitamin D pills suddenly made perfect sense. High doses would cause symptoms, confusion, weakness, heart palpitations that could be attributed to post-surgical delirium or complications. It would give them the medical documentation they needed to claim I was declining. I felt sick. That evening, I called my old friend James Thornton. We'd worked together for 30 years, and after Eleanor died, he'd been the one checking on me weekly, making sure I wasn't drowning in grief. "Robert, how's the new hip?" "Hip's fine." "James, I need to ask you something, and I need complete honesty." "Of course." "In the past year, have I seemed different to you, confused, forgetful, anything that might suggest cognitive decline?" Silence on the other end. Then, "Robert, you're sharper than engineers half your age. Last month you caught an error in the Gardner Expressway renovation plans that 6 other people had missed. Why are you asking?" I told him everything. The nurse's warning, the overheard conversation, the vitamin D pills, the sudden interest in my will and mental competency. When I finished, James was quiet for a long moment. "What are you going to do?" he finally asked. "I don't know yet. I can't go to the police with..." I overheard something suspicious. "I need proof. Do you have the vitamin D bottle?" "Yes." "I didn't take any of them." "Get it tested, privately. I know a guy who runs an independent lab. If those pills are tampered with, that's your proof. And if they're not, then maybe you're paranoid, and we'll all sleep better." He paused. "But Robert, I've known you long enough to trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it usually is." The next day, I convinced a sympathetic nurse to let me use the facility's business center to check some emails. Instead, I researched private investigators in Toronto. I found one with excellent reviews for financial investigation and elder fraud. Her name was Sarah Martinez, and when I called, she didn't sound surprised by my story. "Mr. Harrison, you'd be shocked how common this is. Adult children speeding along their parents' deaths for inheritance. We see it more than you'd think. Can you help? Tell me exactly what you know." I laid it all out. She listened without interrupting. "Okay," she said when I finished. "First, we test those pills. Second, I need to look into their financial situation. Money's usually the motive. Third, we need to document everything. Every conversation, every visit, every interaction. If they're planning something, they'll make mistakes. How much will this cost? My retainer is $5,000. But Mr. Harrison, if they're trying to kill you for your money, that's a pretty good investment in staying alive. She had a point. The pills came back from the lab 3 days later. Sarah called me with the results. They're not vitamin D. I'd been expecting it, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the gut. What are they? Colchicine. It's used to treat gout, but in high doses, especially combined with blood thinners, it's toxic. Causes organ failure that can look like natural causes in elderly patients. Whoever made these knew exactly what they were doing. How would they even get colchicine? Jennifer works in finance, right? Specifically, she manages investments for pharmaceutical companies according to the background check I ran. She'd have connections, knowledge of drugs, access to information about what medications you're on. My hands were shaking. This is real. They really were trying to kill me. Yes, Mr. Harrison, they were. But now we have evidence. What do we do? That depends on what you want. We can go to the police with this, press charges for attempted murder, or, she paused, or what? Or we can gather more evidence, build an airtight case, and confront them in a way that ensures they never try anything like this again. Sometimes, legal consequences aren't as effective as destroying their entire plan, exposing them publicly, making sure they lose everything they were trying to gain. I thought about Marcus, my son. Despite everything, part of me still loved the boy he'd been. I need to understand why, I said quietly. Before I decide anything, I need to know why my son wants me dead. Sarah's investigation took 2 weeks. What she found was worse than I'd imagined. Marcus and Jennifer were drowning in debt. They'd invested heavily in cryptocurrency, lost nearly everything. They'd taken out a second mortgage on their house, maxed out credit cards, borrowed from private lenders with brutal interest rates. They owed $847,000, and the private lenders were threatening violence if they didn't pay within 90 days. My estate was worth approximately $3.4 million, enough to clear their debts and leave them comfortable. Jennifer had been the architect. Sarah found emails, text messages, deleted search histories on Marcus's laptop, undetectable poisons, inducing heart attacks in elderly patients, how to fake dementia symptoms. Marcus had gone along with it. Not enthusiastically at first, the early messages showed him hesitating, questioning, but Jennifer had worn him down. "It's not like we're really killing him," she'd written in one message. "He's old anyway. We're just speeding up the inevitable. And think about what we can do with that money, Marcus. We can start over. We can have the life we deserve." The life they deserved. I'd given Marcus everything, paid for his education, supported him through Eleanor's death, welcomed Jennifer into our family, even when she made it clear she found me boring and old-fashioned. And this was how they repaid me. I called a family meeting. Neutral ground, a conference room at David Brennan's law office. I told Marcus it was to discuss estate planning and that I wanted Jennifer there too. They arrived on time, dressed professionally. Marcus looked tired. Jennifer's smile was sharp. "Thanks for coming," I said. "Please, sit." David was there. Sarah was there, in the corner with her laptop. James was there as my witness. Marcus glanced around, confused. "Dad, what's going on? You said this was about your will." "It is." I slid a folder across the table. "Go ahead, open it." He did. I watched his face drain of color as he flipped through the pages. The lab report on the pills, the financial investigation, the printed emails and text messages. Jennifer grabbed the folder, read quickly, then looked up at me with eyes like ice. "This is illegal," she said. "Invasion of privacy. None of this would hold up in court." "Actually," Sarah spoke up, "when investigating attempted murder, quite a lot of leeway is given for evidence gathering, especially when the victim is elderly and vulnerable." "Attempted murder?" Jennifer's laugh was theatrical. "That's insane. Those pills were just colchicine," I interrupted quietly. "Toxic when combined with blood thinners. You knew exactly what you were doing, Jennifer. You researched it. The internet history from your laptop proves it." Marcus's hands were shaking. "Dad, I can explain." "Explain what?" My voice stayed calm, but inside I was screaming. Explain how you planned to poison me? Explain how you were going to make it look like post-surgical complications? Explain how you decided your own father's life was worth less than clearing your gambling debts? It wasn't gambling, Jennifer snapped. It was investments that didn't pan out, and you were going to leave everything to him anyway. What difference does it make if he gets it now or in 5 years when you die naturally? The casual cruelty of it stunned me into silence. The difference, David said icily, is murder versus inheritance. One is a crime. The other is a legal process. Jennifer stood up. We're leaving. You can't prove any of this. Sit down. I didn't raise my voice, but something in my tone made her freeze. We're not done. What do you want? Marcus's voice was barely a whisper. What are you going to do? I looked at my son, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. I'm going to give you a choice, I said. Option 1. I go to the police with all of this. You're both charged with attempted murder, conspiracy to commit fraud, maybe more. You go to prison. Your lives are destroyed. Jennifer opened her mouth. I held up my hand. Option 2. You agree to the following conditions. Jennifer, you resign from your job immediately. Marcus, you do the same. You both enter mandatory therapy separately and together for a minimum of 2 years. You sell your house. Use the proceeds to pay down your debts. You move into a modest apartment. You get normal jobs. You live normal lives. That's insane, Jennifer protested. I'm not finished. You both sign a legal document admitting to what you did. That document stays with David. If either of you ever contacts me again, if either of you ever attempts anything like this with anyone else, that document goes to the police. You surrender all rights to my estate. Everything goes to charity instead. You can't. I can and I will. I looked at Marcus. But here's the part I'm offering out of whatever love I have left. I won't press charges. I won't destroy you publicly. I'll give you a chance to rebuild your lives honestly, to become better people than you've shown yourselves to be. Marcus's eyes were wet. Dad, don't call me that. The words came out harsh. You lost the right to call me that when you decided I was worth more dead than alive. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. So what's it going to be? I asked. Prison or redemption? They chose redemption. Of course they did. Over the next 6 weeks, I watched from a distance as they dismantled the life they'd built on debt and lies. The house sold. Jennifer resigned. Marcus quit his job. They moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in Scarborough. The signed confession sat in David's safe. I changed my will. Everything to charity split between cancer research in Eleanor's name and an elder abuse prevention foundation. I never spoke to Marcus again. He tried, a few times. Emails, letters. I deleted them all without reading them. Some betrayals are simply too deep to forgive. But here's what I did do. I volunteered at Lakeshore Recovery Center, the rehab facility that had kept me safe. I started a program educating elderly patients and their families about financial fraud, elder abuse, and the warning signs that someone might be trying to take advantage of them. I told my story anonymously, but I told it. How a nurse's whisper saved my life, how my own son tried to kill me, how easy it is to become a victim when you trust the wrong people. Patricia Chen, the nurse who'd warned me, became a good friend. We had coffee once a week. She told me stories from her 20 years in healthcare, some heartwarming, some horrifying. You know what haunts me, she said one day. All the times I had a feeling something was wrong but didn't speak up. All the patients I might have saved if I'd been brave enough to say something. You saved me, I reminded her. I almost didn't. I almost convinced myself it was none of my business. She stirred her coffee slowly. But I kept thinking, what if he was my father? What would I want someone to do? That's the question that matters, isn't it? What would we want someone to do? I'm 68 now. My hip has healed well. I walk 3 kilometers every day along the lake shore, and I volunteer at the recovery center twice a week. I have a good life. Not the life I'd imagined when Marcus was born, when I held that tiny baby and promised to protect him forever. Not the life I'd planned when Eleanor and I talked about growing old with grandchildren around us. But it's a good life nonetheless. Sometimes people ask if I regret not sending Marcus and Jennifer to prison, if I think they deserved a second chance. Here's what I tell them. I didn't give them a second chance for their sake. I did it for mine, because I needed to know that I was still capable of mercy, even when faced with the ultimate betrayal. I needed to prove to myself that I was better than what they'd become. Did they learn from it? I don't know. I hope so. But that's not my responsibility anymore. What I do know is this. There are Marcus and Jennifers everywhere. People who see elderly parents or relatives as obstacles, as bank accounts, as problems to be solved, rather than people to be cherished. The statistics are staggering. Elder financial abuse costs Canadians billions every year, and those are just the cases we know about. How many people die from complications that were actually murder? How many decline into dementia that was actually poisoning? How many slip away quietly while their children count their inheritance? We'll never know the real numbers. But every time I speak to a group of seniors, every time I see recognition in someone's eyes, that flicker of, oh God, that's happening to me, I know I'm making a difference. Patricia saved my life with 6 words. I'm trying to pass that gift forward. And to anyone reading this, anyone who recognizes even a piece of this story in their own life, listen to your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. If someone warns you, listen. Don't dismiss concerns because they're family, because you love them, because you can't imagine they'd hurt you. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love us the most are the ones capable of the deepest cruelty. Trust, but verify. Love, but protect yourself. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And if a nurse ever whispers a warning in your ear, for God's sake, listen to her. She might just save your life. I still have the bottle of fake vitamin D pills. David keeps it in his safe with the confession. Sometimes I think about having it thrown away, but I keep it as a reminder of how close I came, of how much I didn't know, of how easily trust can be weaponized. Last month, a woman approached me after one of my talks at a community center in North York. She was crying. My son's been asking me to sign a power of attorney, she said. He's been so insistent. And his wife keeps talking about how I don't really need to live alone anymore, how I should give them access to my accounts, just in case. I thought I was being paranoid for questioning it. But after hearing your story, trust your instincts, I told her. Always trust your instincts. She called me 2 weeks later. She'd hired an investigator. Her son and daughter-in-law had been forging her signature on checks for 6 months, draining her savings account bit by bit. With the evidence, she was able to stop them, press charges, and protect what was left of her money. You saved my life, she said. No, Patricia saved mine. I'm just paying it forward. That's all any of us can do, really. Take the pain we've experienced and transform it into something that helps others. Turn betrayal into protection. Convert grief into advocacy. I think Eleanor would approve. She always said I had a gift for teaching, for explaining complex things in ways people could understand. I'd thought my teaching days ended with retirement. I was wrong. Some lessons can only be taught by those who've learned them the hardest way. I'm Robert Harrison. I'm 68 years old. I'm a survivor of elder abuse and attempted murder by my own son. And I'm here to tell you, it can happen to anyone. It happened to me. But I'm still here, still fighting, still making sure that every senior who hears my story knows they have the right to question, to investigate, to protect themselves. Because sometimes the most dangerous person in your life is the one you trust the most. And sometimes a whispered warning from a stranger is the only thing standing between you and disaster. Listen to the warnings. Trust your instincts. Protect yourself. Your life might depend on it.